Hello, everyone. I'm Veer. I'm here with Git. We're, hosting the moderation office hours like usual. Sorry for starting a little bit late. We're going to be here taking your questions for around the next 30-ish minutes around moderation topics around the guidelines, and general Resonite topics as well. Just keep in mind that we are not programmers. We are not technical team members, so we're not going to be able to give you too many in-depth technical, deep lore knowledge of the Resonite platform. But we can definitely talk to you about some basic stuff that we understand at least.
Indeed. I hope everyone's been having a fantastic weekend, and glad to have you here. Tons of questions for us today. We'd be happy to chew through them, but if not, we can always find fun things to talk about. There's a few PSAs we can chew through this week, as per the norm.
Definitely.
I see we have a couple folks already in. Hello, Bappler. Hello, Angel Boy VR. Welcome to the moderation office hours. I just, in the side window was having difficulty loading it, but I think we're still doing good. No
we're
issues.
all set. We're all good.
Can we get the usual ask of someone tuning in right now to give us a thumbs up or some kind of vaguely affirmative noise that you can hear the words coming out of our face?
Yes, please, because I was having some audio issues as soon as I spawned in.
Well, people are seemingly responding with, hello, hope everyone is doing great on this fine day from Angel Boy. Hemi asks, I think the music is just a tad bit loud, but all is good on my side. Thank you very much. We can always make live adjustments.
Yeah.
Make things a little bit easier to hear.
Let me grab this and turn it down just a little bit. How's that? Is that all set?
We need someone to tell us. We won't know. The music sounds great to me, having tweaked, media volume sliders and everything inside of the platform. Angel Boy exploded.
That's a
Not
weird
ideal.
reaction to lowering volume. Must be opposite day on Angel Boy's planet.
Very tragic, but, it happens to the best of us. Sometimes we just combust. Battler says, hearing loud and clear. Thank you very much, sir. Always good to know we're coming through. It's vaguely frustrating to find out after you've given a 5-minute long PSA that none of your words were intelligible.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Sideways day for me in Germany. Germany has Sideways Day? That's
Does everyone
cool.
just walk sideways? Do you pivot? How does this work?
Or do you just kind of roll? You just lay down on your side and just try to roll in a general direction to your right or left?
You need to let us know. In any case. So, while I click through the PSAs, we have a couple of common ones we always like to get out the way just so folks know. Old-time listeners will certainly have heard us talk about the fact that we like to raid folks at the end of this stream and mention the fact that if you are an up-and-coming streamer inside of the Resonite community, we strongly encourage you to start up your raid. Oh, not your raid, sorry, your stream sometime just before 4:30, 20 minutes from now, give or take, because we'll be looking for someone to raid at that time. And our criteria is really just any kind of PG-friendly, English-speaking Resonite stream with the lowest amount of population. So if you've never done this before, you are a prime candidate to get a raid. Who did we raid last week? It was someone new. We get new people every now and then. We're very happy to see them come along. Angel Boy says, your entire body is essentially tilted 90 degrees to left or right, and you resume doing normal walking movements. Unfortunately, it's not very effective in getting you from point A to point B. That does sound both very difficult and like a fantastic holiday.
At least entertaining.
Bappler does note that viewed from space, most of us are sideways twice a day. This is correct.
Definitely. Unless you're on the North or South Pole.
Viewed from space, yeah, the vast majority of us would be sideways.
Yeah, especially those close to the equator.
Okay. Well, as always, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to launch into a couple more PSAs because there's a few topics we wanted to go over this week, just as sort of general points of consideration we like to spread information on, and sort of our philosophy behind how we think of certain guideline breakages on platform. But if at any point one has questions, be it about the things I'm saying or something else entirely, drop those in chat. Please put a question mark on them. I'll happily stop my rant and ramble in order to answer whatever question you have. That is why we're here. We're here to field questions from you, not necessarily just pontificate from... Well, okay, we don't have a podium, but you understand what I mean. Angel Boy highlights, yes, almost half the population would be pointing with their feet towards you. Unfortunately, you won't ever see it. This is true. It's Sideways Day every day here on Earth. Nuki's trapped behind ads. I'm very sorry to hear that. We had a bit of technical difficulty getting things rolling. Now that we're here, unfortunately, that means we couldn't run ads before we stand up the stream, which is usually a goal for us. But
we can do it right now.
See folks kicking around. Yeah, no. Still, folks will hopefully get through their ads, and we will still be here. Of course, we sometimes run a little long, certainly when there's still questions piling in.
Oh no, Angel Boy, don't give Brooks ideas.
Could be done. Could be done.
Next April Fools will be Sideways Day, thanks to you.
Indeed.
For anyone who's not visually tuned in, Angel Boy said, now we must make Sideways Day a thing in Resonite now. It might become a thing now.
That's possible. Always fear April Fools. Kite asks, hello, what are your usual moderation duties for and within Resonite? I'm going to answer this a little bit more broadly. Me and Veer, we are the moderation, or we're both part of the moderation lead team. Veer is the chief moderation officer for the entire platform. Our duties are sometimes a little bit more different than moderators more broadly. So I just like to think of those as two categories. The moderation leads will, aside from generally managing the moderators, of course, do things like this: host moderation office hours and draft a lot of the policy. When things are coming down the line in terms of either new guidelines, because new features are arriving, or just we've received feedback pertaining to a new guideline, that's usually our pen. We're usually putting that into writing, talking to the community about how they would, how they feel about the change to the guideline, and trying to make adjustments based on that feedback. Sorry, Kate also clarified. Also, why are you floating?
He's a skeleton.
Why aren't you floating? This looks very relaxing. It is very relaxing.
Also, I like how my response absolutely doesn't answer the question appropriately.
I think it does. In a sense, it does. But I will give one other tail into that thing. The more broad moderation duty for, say, people who volunteer to be moderators on platform is usually handling tickets. As we usually like to say, we don't typically have beat cops. We don't have moderators wandering through sessions looking after or trying to find problems inside of the community. We get tickets brought into us through the moderation ticket system, and volunteer mods will help address those and hand out account restrictions as is appropriate, working as a team.
Yeah. Also, we got an interesting thing here. Okay, so Znop question mark, as in, like, more specifically, the most annoying thing you faced as moderators in Resonite. So I've been seeing how Fruix has been answering Znop with, like, some, like, interesting dialogue. So I think that would be fun to emulate. One of the most, I think, annoying things that I'd say, like, I come across in, moderation is just, like, how can I put it? Like, the fear that some people have of submitting tickets. We definitely, like, how can I put it? If you experience, like, people abusing you on this platform, we're here to help you. We're not going to, like, necessarily know about it unless we get a ticket, though. We definitely aren't, psychic. So definitely, like, send us tickets. We're not going to bite you, and we're not going to, like, get mad at you or something if you don't send us a perfect ticket. We never get a perfect ticket on the first run, ever. So don't worry about how it's, like, formulated. If it's missing stuff, we'll ask you for stuff. That's how it usually goes. Most tickets are a conversation. Absolutely. So just come talk to us.
Oh, Cab subscribed at tier 1. Thank you very much, sir. I'm not going to say your name once. It scares me. There's too many B's in it. But I'm very appreciative of the subscription. Every little bit counts, and that keeps the platform running. Thank you very much, sir. If you have a question for that, by all means, please add. You do have a question. There's a B There's several,
What?
sir. It's practically an entire aviary. Aviary?
Wait, is that what it's called? No.
No. Apiary?
Apiary. Yeah, I think that's it. Also, what about you, Git? What's the most annoying thing you come across in moderation?
Honestly, I'm going to say the same thing. The biggest issue is definitely folks not coming to us to tell us stuff. We can't, our moderation, as I always like to do, is give that whole we're not beat cops thing. We're not coming into your sessions. We're not going to pry into your private places and try and figure things out. We are fundamentally reactive in that regard. We think this is a good policy because spying on our users is icky. That's my entire profound explanation for why we don't want to do that. But yeah, we don't want to do that. And that means you need to come talk to us. There's sort of a handshake agreement with that. If we're not going to actively be digging, you need to give us stuff. So please give us stuff. That said, we have a pile of questions here. So Baplar is a quick one. How tolerable are the summer temperatures where you are these days? Things broke just recently heat-wise for me, so doing pretty good. But as a follow-up to that, we have Nuki saying, tail end of a COPD attack right now. Sorry to hear that. Hope you're doing well. I will admit ignorance here. I'm not certain what a COPD attack is, but I hope you're doing well. They follow up to say, hopefully I'll finally get to talk with Foxbox. Third time's the charm. Certainly sounds like it could be a fun stream. We will keep an eyeball out for it at the end of ours.
Yeah. We got a question here also from Nuki again. I can think of a few answers for this, but what suggestions would you have for anyone who's getting moderation warnings? So you can actually also fill out in the moderation.resonite.com page a general inquiry. So if you do receive a warning and you have questions around it, you can ask us. Granted, we are going to be very limited in a lot of cases to what we can tell you. But we'll try to make it as clear as we can, why you received the warning without, let's say, exposing any information that may point in a direction towards the ticket writer for the original, warning that you received.
Mm-hmm. We have a follow-up question from another follow-up one. Cobalt Scythe asks, what rules do you have for mentors? What would cause them to get kicked from the program, if anything? Well, I think the very, very broad answer, well, I'm going to hand this to Veer, actually. The biggest broad answer I would give you is just, don't violate the guidelines and they have their own conduct. But Veer can elaborate beyond me.
Definitely. So as far as the mentor program goes, one, absolutely, the guidelines must be followed. Usually how can I put it? A medium to major guideline violation is likely going to expel someone from the mentor program, likely permanently, especially if it's bad. But the mentors actually do have their own code of conduct. That's a little bit dynamic. It's constantly shifting. So it's kind of hard to get into. But basically, things that we care about is whether or not a mentor is going to be sensitive and responsive to new users. And one thing that I'm kind of making a new addition to the rules and guidelines for the mentor program is, how can I put it? It's sort of like a sensitivity training thing, where we're ensuring that all mentors are going to be consistently okay with helping anyone who is of any form of minority, whether it's race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, etc. If we have someone who's applying to become a mentor who's going to have a problem with that, they're not going to join the mentor program, period, the end. Beyond that, though, it's generally we want our users, our mentors, to adhere to the spirit of the program. It's just really kind of hard to get into what that necessarily means, in a meaningful way right here, right now. If you are a mentor, you definitely have access to the mentor, they're not guidelines, but they kind of are. If you have a specific question, though, I can definitely answer that. This is a little bit nebulous, a little hard to kind of get into.
Mm-hmm. Grant UK asks, I think there might be a missing word or two in this. Grant UK says, would warning people to stop bad behavior worthy of a ticket? Or would you, I'm guessing, prefer us? Or whether we would prefer you to make a ticket? let's just summarize. I'm pretty certain Grand UK is asking, and do clarify if I've got this wrong, whether we encourage people to talk to folks doing guideline breaking behavior, or just immediately submit a ticket and then move on without trying to engage with that user in any capacity. And we've had this on record a few times before, but our general recommendation is communication first whenever one can. We understand that fails. Sometimes that's not going to work. And sometimes on the face of it, it might be very apparent it's not going to work. The joking immediate ban that we get for people coming into Resonite would be a person who makes an account, has no other interactions than joining a public session and yelling a racial slur over and over again. Yeah, you're probably not going to try and talk to that person. I understand that. But in any situation where it's not so clearly black and white, our recommendation will always be try to talk your way through it. Folks here are fundamentally quite good, we've found in our experience, and very conducive to just engaging with them in a respectful and polite manner and trying to set some sort of boundaries or understanding between what's caused the issue. Of course, if that fails, tickets are always present, and honestly, we do like to say, even if you would not like to do that behavior, you're not obligated to do it. You're welcome to send us a ticket under any condition. We just generally recommend communicating because we think it's a very good strategy. There's no checklist one has to follow before you're allowed to reach out to talk to moderation. You can reach out to talk to us any old day. In fact, we come to you in stream format to do it on a regular basis.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that one's specifically for you. Get, yeah.
Angel Boy asks, question to get, what was the cause of your skull fracturing? Totally fine if it's too personal of a matter. No need to share if it's too sensitive information. That's very accommodating of you, but I believe this was Halloween. There was an attempt to become very spooky on Halloween, and I happened to like how spooky I was, so I decided to stay spooky. Which I think is actually the excuse for most of the things I have visually in one way or another, to be perfectly honest, just accumulated over various Halloweens over the years.
Definitely. Let's see here. We got another question for the follow-up to the mentor question here. Navy asks, what if a mentor tries to spread rumors? So that goes back into violating the spirit of the program. If we have members of the mentor team who are, doing something like that, engaging in drama or spreading rumors, that's probably not something we necessarily want to see in a mentor. If you're seeing it, we've actually moved the mentor report thing. Well, it's actually mentor feedback now. And you can actually find that now at the moderation portal, moderation.resonite.com. It's one of the drop-down menu items. And when you send those reports, those go to the mentor leads. It's not a moderation issue or a moderation situation at that point. The mentor leads will take a look at the information, take a look at the evidence and see whether or not the actions by that mentor are violating the spirit of the program. And then they'll handle it accordingly.
Absolutely. Well, we have some big questions coming in here. Cobalt gives a follow-up to an earlier one. Follow-up, what's a more questions pile in. Cobalt asks, what's a medium to high guideline rule break, for example? We do have a tier system in terms of handing out account restrictions that is most typically engaged with through escalations. Say you're doing even relatively low tier stuff, which I will just say like basic harassment. You were doing something to someone they didn't want. You had a delete gun and you kept deleting them, and they're like, hey, stop deleting me, and you deleted them, and they issued they submitted a ticket. We issued either a warning or relatively light account restrictions. If you keep doing that behavior, we will escalate in terms of the length of account restrictions. There are things, categories that I don't know if I have the full list in front of me, that would immediately escalate it to higher tiers on that system. Some of them are things like anything involving minors that you ought not be doing will immediately, of course, kick you up to very high responses from moderation. I believe we're going to see things in terms of racial content, racial slurs would kick you up there as well. Again, I don't think I have a comprehensive list, and I don't want to misspeak here, but that's what we mean in terms of higher and lower tier guideline violations. We have a special category that immediately escalates our response right at the gates, even if it's just a first time sort of thing. But other offenses could technically get you that high if you just persisted in the behavior.
Definitely. Let's see. Grand UK Some culling systems, by their nature of showing a username and a profile picture, have broken the mutual blocking moderation tool. If a user would then use that culling system to try and bypass the mutual block, how severe would it be from a moderation standpoint, and would additional components to try to make these systems work with the mutual block be desired? So we're not necessarily expecting that you're going to try to build let's say these culling systems around that blocking feature. It's a little hard to do anyway. But as far as that goes, that's just straight up harassment at that point. And we would consider that possibly a utilization of tools to bypass a block. If that user is specifically using that tool, like the culling system, to try and find and harass a user who has blocked them. It boils down to the same thing. If that user had just created a tool on their own to go and find that user, they're using a tool to find the user and cause problems for them. So yeah, that would be pretty severe, and we would definitely be having a conversation with that user.
Indeed. Scrolling further down the list here, Angel Boy has a follow-up question to both. Have you guys checked out the pre-release yet? If so, what was your favorite thing you did there and your most favorite test?
Yes. Okay, so I got on the pre-release quite literally in the first 30 minutes that the VR pre-release was out, and it was amazing. So I hosted the Viridian Islands. It's my home world, and I basically had it open so as many people could join as possible. When I got in there, I was getting around 30 to 34 frames per second. I'm very GPU bound, so that's pretty normal for me. And then over time, people started joining, and we had 20 users in the world. And I realized I was still getting 30 to 34 frames per second. And I thought that was kind of wild. So I decided to do a little bit of a test too. I had a culling system installed in that world. I turned off the culling system. I was still getting 30 to 34 frames per second while rendering everyone. It's amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait till it's fully released.
Meanwhile, I have not done as extensive testing, but I was just flipping through worlds. I went to all of the MMC worlds, looked for the biggest, heaviest, the ones that took the longest to pull down, and was just clicking through them and marveling at how fast things would pop in. My home world is super duper light, so there was a minor improvement there, but it's certainly best shown off by worlds that you don't have in the cache, you've never visited before, that are huge, complex, interesting things that sometimes takes a bit of a load here on live. They were just coming down at a truly lightning pace. It's going to make a phenomenal change, I imagine, to quality of life once it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
We do have a couple of PSAs here, but I'm just going to check out questions. The only actual question left is Grand UK asking Decoy, how is the bird? And I suspect I can't answer that for Grand UK. Or for Decoy.
We're going to go ahead and prioritize questions, by the way, before we prioritize any sort of user PSAs here. Just to be clear.
We do like to push those. It's just, folks come to us for questions, so we do try. Yeah. Cobalt does ask a somewhat similar question. What actions would cause a user to be banned without warning, regardless if it's a first offense? It's difficult to describe specific events without getting probably into uncomfortable territory for potentially some viewers. So I'm going to keep it very broad when I say we're talking about things involving minors. Our go-to example there being a user that's clear, or the other one we brought up earlier, which was a user that's just attempting to be disruptive that has no other actions to their account and is obviously broken into, say, racial slurs or other language of other slurs of that nature. Those sorts of things could immediately lead to someone being removed from the platform. They could still submit an appeal at that point. I would not imagine a few have. I don't think we've actually really received any that fall into the latter category there. But yes, there are at least a few cases where we're going to find things that are either so problematic that we're going to remove you from the platform, even if you've been here for a good long while. And those are things that could involve minors, or things that are just so obviously disruptive and carry so little likelihood of you engaging with the platform in anything other than a disruptive fashion that we're going to kick you out the door when you've just immediately arrived. Again, it's somewhat difficult to describe specifics without either potentially citing cases or describing actions themselves that I would feel at least disinclined to describe in detail on stream. So I'm going to keep it at this broad overview. So if you're curious about specifics, you could ask. I would ask you to make sure that you keep the questions still framed within a sort of family-friendly PG sense, though. We do try to keep this stream available to everyone.
Yeah. We have a question here from Nuki, follow up on the profanity/slurs thing. What if we have Tourette's or another tic disorder and profanity as a tic? Is there a procedure we should follow if we have an issue like that? That is a really good question. And to be clear, I have not done a whole lot of research on like individuals with Tourette's and moderation of platforms and whatnot. And I would like to do some research on that one. Just so that, you know, we can remain as equitable as possible, as well as considerate of people's issues.
A fair question, though.
We'll come back to that once I do some research.
Draconis asks, hypothetical, say I'm blocked by someone and I notice it. I have zero intention of doing anything in regards to it. I casually mention it to someone nearby who tries to contact the person who has me blocked on my behalf. Is there any situation where I'd be the one in trouble? So this is the sort of situation where I could see a ticket showing up on our front and you very much wanting to have a conversation with moderation after the fact. Just to be perfectly clear, harassment is, in our world, any kind of persistent unwanted communication. If someone's doing something to you, but it could just be talking to you and you're like, hey, please, I'd like to cut communication. Don't reach out to me anymore. We've had our disagreements. I'd like to not talk to you anymore. And then they block you. If you try to continue to communicate with them, you're slipping into harassment. This includes things, as Draconis' example here raises, such as third-party messages passed on. We'll often tell people that when they submit tickets and ask inquiries around harassment. Other people being enlisted to send messages or check in on a person that is blocked, those things could count as harassment under our guidelines. Now, what you're describing here is that removed of all intentionality. You have by accident. You did not intend to send messages. You did not intend to enlist anyone. You were just casually talking and someone did a thing. That would not, strictly speaking, violate harassment, but I could understand how we might receive a ticket in that regard. Of course, we tend to lead with warnings. We tend to lead with communication, and we expect, if you found this scenario and you got a warning or a reminder in your inbox telling you about how harassment means you can't send third-party messages, that your follow-up to this would be very cautious about how you mention these blocks to other users in the future, so you do not inspire further inquiries on your behalf. And that's probably going to solve your situation here, because of course you're describing a scenario where there is no intentionality to get around it. That's likely to solve it. Of course, if you run into these scenarios, you're welcome to reach out to moderation through the general inquiry form to get further details, but that's how I imagine it's going to play out. We do take intentionality into consideration when it comes to guidelines.
Yeah. Zach the Microhybrid asks, do TOS audio rules apply to live voice chatting, not just recording? You might need to clarify that. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking about. If you're talking about like, you know, like live voice chatting, like in world, yeah, like the terms of service and the guidelines still apply there. If it happens on our platform, the guidelines apply.
Indeed. Generally speaking, there's nothing you can do with Resonite where the terms of service aren't going to be present, but we're here for clarifications. By all means, pull out the exact thing and ask us the exact scenario. We'll give you our best thoughts on it.
Nuki says, also to be noted, if someone blocks you and then is in a session with you, they can't see you, so they don't know they're in front of your system, which bypasses it. We had an issue with that in USFN a while ago. Moderation can't really act on a person who can't see you. You know what? Actually, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. I guess, like, I'm not aware of the systems you're talking about in USFN. Let's see. Did we miss anything? Let me check up here.
Yes. We did. Grant UK asks, if you could be a bird, which bird would you be and why?
I don't know. I think bearded vultures look really cool.
Canadian geese get away with anything. That feels liberating.
Oh my gosh.
Jace is here, guys, says, I want Resonite to go to Quest 2 and Quest 3. Suffice to say, we certainly want Resonite to be present on, I think, every electronic device in the world, including the brain plant we'll presumably all have when we're old. I'd like to see it get spread as far and wide as it conceivably can be, but I unfortunately, as both part of Resonite and certainly just being a moderation stooge, can't tell you when that's likely to happen. Getting Resonite spread to more platforms and being more available is certainly an interest of the team, but we don't have any announcements or ETAs that we could give you here.
Yeah. Nuki asks a really good question here. What if I blocked someone and they want to contact me to apologize and I'm okay with that? Then don't report them when they do contact you and, communicate with you. Basically, moderation doesn't necessarily want to come in and just dictate, hey, you've been harassed. We're going to act on your behalf. Yes. That's why we rely on tickets. Because the ticket shows to us that you have been harassed, you have been hurt, and we want to try to make it right. If there's nothing that we need to make right, then everything's good.
This very reasoning is part of why we're one of the reasons why we're very opposed to third-party tickets. We need people to be speaking on their behalf, advocating for themselves when telling us what has gone wrong.
Definitely.
Did we miss anything else? No, that was just Nuki. So we've chewed through all of the questions. If we missed your question or any other comment you'd like us to talk about, please repost it. My apologies. It was a slightly busy day there for a couple of minutes. Navy has a follow-up saying, so what if someone blocks the admin/moderators of an active world, then harasses users? The world moderation can't stop it because they can't see what's going on.
So are you asking, what happens to that user if they get reported? Because I would say that that sounds to me like it goes a step above harassment, so it's probably going to get a tier increase on our on our banning tier list.
Indeed.
Banning tier
you kind of
list.
have multiple infractions with this hypothetical. You're talking about them going after multiple users. They're also sort of by default messing with the world systems inside of that session, so we're going to treat that as harassment. Some significant escalation there seems appropriate. Now, of course, in that scenario, we're only going to learn of this if one submits tickets, but I assume, again, in this scenario, multiple people have been harassed, so when they field tickets to us, we're going to take action.
Hemi Sputnik says, banning tier list stream when I knew someone was going to say it as soon as I said banning tier list.
Zach, the microhybrid, perhaps clarifying, says, if someone speaks about someone else behind their back in a world, Section 6 says, your contributions do not ridicule, mock, disparage, intimidate, or abuse anyone. I'm asking if that would apply in live voice chat scenario in a world.
Section 6, are you looking at the terms of service? Because if so, that's, how can I put it? As members of the business team, certainly we would be involved in that, but, how can I put it? Technically, that's not really, moderation guidelines. But technically speaking, I think we need to go through and look through our TOS. But typically here we'll be talking about guidelines, and there isn't a guideline against having an opinion about someone else, or talking to friends about an issue or situation that you feel bad about that happened between you and another person. We're not here to police that, if that's what you're essentially asking.
Hilariously, this was meant to be the PSA today until we get a whole bunch of interesting questions, which are good. Please keep asking questions. They're ideal. But that was, while there are examples about sort of organized or published disparagement of other users that we have previously talked about counting as harassment, these are strictly speaking not just expressing your opinion in live voice, or in this instance, talking to a friend. If one decided to have a posted wall of shame where you have inside of your session said, all these people are bad, we hate them for these reasons, everyone should hate these people, that could count as harassment and we would have issues with it. If you published a world where it is just a big shit list directed at okay, that's not an official term, sorry. If they posted a world where you are just attacking a user and you've meant to publish it so it is very publicly visible and posted as an indictment of that user, that is something that we could also treat as building a sort of witch hunt or coordinated harassment campaign. These things are strictly speaking not, as Veer said, just expressing an opinion, including negative ones, about someone else in idle conversation. You are allowed to have opinions on Resonite, and we're not going to go after you for just having those opinions, even if they are negative. Harassment, we provided examples of how published things and walls of shame could be a problem. We often bring up that guideline or that rule of thumb we like to cite, persistent unwanted communications. If these negative opinions aren't just being expressed to a person but are being directed at someone, and they say, hey, stop talking to me, and you persist in that unwanted communication, yeah, you've slipped into harassment territory.
We've scrolled past a couple questions here. Wait, how far up are we?
We got navies.
No, like the world moderation can't do anything because they block the world mods. They can still technically do something. Like, let's say if you're hanging out with your friends, you're the host of the world, and then a user comes in, blocks you. Well, actually, they can't block you. I don't think. I think they would actually have to be
removed.
Yeah, they would be like removing themselves from the session if they did that. But let's say they blocked the people you set to moderator or above in your world. And for some reason, let's say you're AFK or something, the other users who are there can still probably try to figure out what's going on. They'll notice there's one user in the list that they can't see. If there's a bunch of chaos going on and your friends aren't doing it, kick that one person. And report them.
And of course, you can submit a report to us at that point. This seems like a scenario where it would be apparent things have gone awry pretty much immediately. When there's an invisible person you can't detect as the world moderator. Yeah, seeing chaos erupt. But that's certainly a moment where you could reach out to us for additional actions.
Definitely.
Angel asks, if Veer was to steal Git's skull fragments purely to harass, would Veer get banned? No, terrible other things would happen to Veer.
I was gonna say, like, that has other implications other than just my account status. Like, I could be putting my career in jeopardy.
Rolling down here, Grand UK clarifies, Navy's question refers to someone with the ability to kick/ban being a mutual blocked by a bad actor so that they cannot see the bad actions that they would then want to kick for in session rules or Resonite guideline reasons. Again, we generally have the anticipation that if someone's being harassed in a world, and they're a victim, they presumably haven't blocked the moderators of the session and would go over to the moderators and be like, Steve, I finally didn't say Bob, Steve is doing bad things to me, please deal with them. And when the moderator's like, who's Steve? I can't see a Steve, the situation sort of immediately reveals itself. But that's why we generally recommend, if you do have a moderation team inside of a world, let folks know, let them come over and chat with you. It's always nice to see people using session moderation tools in that regard. And whenever that simple conversation begins, it'll immediately make this sort of scenario apparent. When that happens, we would strongly encourage you to reach out to moderation through tickets, because as we covered earlier, this is a pretty sophisticated level of harassment. Not only are they harassing a single user, they are also clearly trying to mess with the session. We're going to escalate that one when we become aware of it.
At this point, I'm going to just actually have a banning tier list, for hypothetical situations you guys come up with, and I'm going to put it on a tier list. But Nuki asks, would an S tier moderation issue be a person came into my session and immediately started saying queerphobic, queerphobic things, right? Or the counter report they tried to file that person is a queer furry. This happened, you banned them in under an hour. Okay.
If you come in, sorry, continue.
Yeah, like that's going to get you bonked really hard, really fast. We don't tolerate intolerance on this platform.
Yeah, sorry, perhaps my brain always defaults to racial slur as like the go-to example we've used a million times, but bigotry, more broadly, right out the gates. If we see an hour-old account that has been nothing but a very vicious bigot, that we're going to deal with that immediately and decisively. So much so that we typically use that as sort of the go-to example. We generally, when our mods see anything happen, as part of training, we encourage them to submit tickets, document things, but if there's something happening directly in front of their faces, they're allowed to act, submit a ticket, and then we follow up with paperwork and deliberation for whether those account restrictions ought to be extended, reverted, that sort of stuff. Someone shows up and starts shouting the N-word is the example of just deal with the situation, submit a ticket, and we'll deliberate on it after.
Yeah. Also, just a little thing that Angel Boy had said here, we don't tolerate intolerance. I like that phrase. That's Popper's paradox from someone named Karl Popper. It's also known as the paradox of tolerance. In order for society to maintain a good and tolerant society must not tolerate intolerance.
Indeed.
And I live by that. I think that's a good paradox to live by.
Cobalt brings out the spooky question. I do like going over it every now and then, just so folks are aware. Cobalt asks, if people have to report the higher-up mods, including you two, Dante, Fruits, etc., how would that be handled? So there is a separate complaint ticket form inside of the moderation reporting system that talks about its complaint for the mentors, mods, or staff. This would just, obviously being both mods and staff, be applicable for that. Generally speaking, this is good for all of the mods, where only the mod leads are going to see it and they will handle that stuff. But if one was submitted and it was targeting one of the mod leads, that mod lead immediately backs out of the investigation in all capacities, does not engage with the ticket, and another mod lead would be handling it independently and then following up with whatever conclusion from that report was with Fruits. If you're trying to report Fruits, I don't know who to report to. Beyond that, we would likely investigate the scenario, try to understand it, and have a conversation with him. But Fruits is sort of the very top of the pyramid, one ought to say. If there's problems with Fruits, they are present in Resonite. You're certainly welcome to tell us if something has gone down, and we will look into it and try and understand the situation better and address it as best we can. But there's no one to report to really about Fruits. He is the yellow dog man. We will be more investigatory at that point.
You know, just to add to that, though, let's say if it's something minor that, like, you know, maybe even a minor guideline violation that myself or Git or Fruix or Dante does, still you can report it. We're not going to be mad at you. We're going to be mad at ourselves. For certain, and it's going to be something that we'll try to work on internally. Trust me, we don't want to be violating any guidelines, the guidelines that we put out there. We don't want to be setting bad examples. We don't want to be setting examples that we're above the guidelines that we put in place. And if we do screw up, we want to learn from it. We don't want to continue doing that screw up.
Yes. We can always improve.
Yeah.
Nuki follows up, I'm assuming, on an earlier question, saying, if you block the people running the event, why would they be coming to the event? Sounds a little sus. Yeah, again, you would have issues with that. If it's the actual world host, I believe there's already a correction. But if they're blocking moderators, we have the scenario we went through previously.
Let's see here. What is your thoughts on furry phobia / anti-furry stuff? So, I guess, like, in some ways, I would probably but I would probably immediately assume that it might be tied to actual, like, anti-LGBT, like, rhetoric, because that's usually what it is. But generally speaking, I'm gonna say this, like, furries aren't a minority, but they are usually tied into the LGBT as a minority. So it really depends on this person's direction. If they are trying to be, like, you know, phobic of anything LGBT and trying to use, like, furry as a cover, we're usually going to see through that cover, but we need evidence of it, essentially.
Yes, we have held the stance previously in other places and on this very stream that generally speaking, dislike of a fandom, or be it furry or any other fandom, there are many on the internet. The skeleton fandom will be big one of these days. Doesn't meet the criteria alone in terms of intolerance, but yeah, obviously furry phobia, one might imagine, is specifically tied to things that it's a very big red flag we're going to look for in terms of other behaviors the person might be exhibiting, other beliefs they might have. That is less likely to happen if someone was just, say, generally displeased with skeletons, which is tragic but understandable. We are very spooky, but we would not treat that disdain towards skeleton avatars as a big red flag of the other broader ideas of bigotry, and in and of itself not enough to trigger our guidelines on intolerance.
Angel Boy asks, what if the world itself harasses me? How would I go about reporting that? Half joke, half serious. So, actually, this can actually happen.
We've had this conversation, yes.
Right. If a user submits a world that is designed to do harm, especially if it's designed to trick users into joining it so that they can have harm done to them, that is a major violation of our guidelines. Please report it. Please report the person who submitted the world. You can usually find that information in the worlds menu.
Yes. Draconis asks, would I get in trouble for harassing myself? I'll threaten myself with a pushpin.
No.
Yes. Damn it.
Yes.
Okay, well. Look, if you submit a ticket against yourself with sufficient severity, I'm willing to at least read it. I don't know what we'll do, but I'm willing to read it. Send a warning to you, perhaps?
Decoy says, the skeleton fandom is dying. Repost if you're a real bonehead. Are but you no a real bonehead?
Oof. I by definition, I suppose so.
Oh, wait. I think we did possibly miss some clarification earlier here. From Zach the Microhybrid. We didn't answer this, right? Like a group spreading out to individuals going to worlds and unsolicited speaking the negative statements with another user with an intent to cause reputational harm. I should have come more prepared with the whole thing. Apologize. Oh, okay. So, and also I see here you were afraid to ask for this very reason that I'd mess it up. Don't worry. Like, we're not going to bite you for messing up your... Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, in a situation like that, that probably crosses our threshold for witch hunting, which is kind of a nebulous thing to, define. But at that point, that sounds pretty targeted, and it sounds like it's an attempt to get a group to harass an individual. That's definitely something that would probably get us having a conversation with someone about. What if the void itself reports itself? Which is effectively nothing reporting nothing. Would need an exorcist to deal with a severe issue? Oh man, I don't know. You're gonna have to enlist help from the great astral beings on that one.
Likely indeed.
Nuki says, I was just starting up my stream, but now it appears Resonite is frozen. Resonite is not frozen. That means you're frozen.
Yeah, Resonite appears to still be operating. It would be very difficult for us to answer you if it was not.
Nuki asks, probably asked this a long time ago, but thoughts on Fediverse or Mastodon? I don't know enough about it.
I quite like it. I understand, actually, I'm not 100% certain. I want to say it didn't continue to grow because the migration away from Twitter became more focused on Blue Sky, it seems, but I am actually just making that up. I don't have concrete numbers. Mastodon might still be growing quite nicely, and it is an ideal, well, as close as we're going to get to an ideal world for handling that sort of microblogging social experience. I'm sorry for every person who remembers the word microblogging from when we actually still use that and consequently grew an extra gray hair. That's just That's just part of life at this point. But no, I think it is a good system that has a lot of really interesting ideas behind it that work well. I have complaints because I think anyone who's present on Mastodon has at least some concerns about it. But, you know, they're good complaints to have. Productive complaints, I like to think of.
Indeed.
Turkana says, I'd like to report the weather for being too hot. I am unable to resonate properly under these conditions. Yeah, I'm also floating in screen mode, as I have been a couple times now. There's AC in this house, but VR is warm in the middle of the day.
Definitely. All right, guys, with that question being asked here, I think I'm going to go ahead and start looking at the rating process here. Looks like Nuki is streaming. Possibly going to be interviewing Foxbox, I think they said.
Yes, indeed.
Unless they are frozen. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to go ahead and start the rating process right now, guys. We're going to go ahead and raid Nuki. Yes. They've got an interview coming up, it looks like, and I think that's going to be interesting. So you guys send our regards to Nuki as you guys head over there, and you guys have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you for attending and all your wonderful questions. They're awesome.
It was a busy day and an excellent day. Yes. See you next time, folks.
Bye, guys.
Okay, we didn't do the PSA we wanted to come. We don't have enough time. Go see Nuki. Have fun. Nuki, tell them the things you wanted us to tell them.
Did it go through? Or did everything crash?
I think we're still live.
It didn't work. I'm doing it again.
Did the raid just spontaneously fail? Goodbye.
Wait. I'm sorry. Now we can actually, what PSAs were you talking about, Nuki? Wait, what were your PSAs? Oh, did we do any PSAs today of our own?
The two PSAs we wanted to cover were streaming, and then actually, which we ended up going into anyways, talking about what counts as harassment and what people are allowed to talk about. But we went into that with questions. Your many questions on the topic were ideal and allowed us to explore it naturally, which is kind of fantastic timing.
Yeah. All right, folks, my headset might actually turn its Wi-Fi card off here in a second if I just suddenly go stiff. I'm just going to do the rating process, just letting you know that now. But I'm going to go ahead and start, and I will catch y'all later. Say hi to Nuki. Bye, guys.
Goodbye, folks. I'm going to keep vamping here until I see this click over. Oh, it did.
Okay.
Immediately as I said that.